All right. Welcome to BS with Joe.
All right, I'm Brad. That's Joe.
It is.
If you don't know, we record these all in one day,
We do.
and we post a lot of them up. But there are a lot of comments of either our opinions on things from our life experiences and our knowledge of events that have happened, and we're out there sharing this to the world in hopes of enlightening people and educating people in our opinions, and hopefully they have similar
not
opinions.
that my opinion matters to anybody but me.
Right. But we're hoping that we're trying to change culture in a way and show and share our opinions to help change that culture.
On that note, I was going to tell you a story about how I first got interested in politics.
Take it away.
Back in 1980, Ronald Reagan was first voted into office. Before that, I was alive for Ford. I wasn't really old enough to understand what was going on.
You mean Carter?
No, Ford.
Ford? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I wasn't old enough to really understand what was going on with Gerald Ford. But
Okay.
And then Jimmy Carter came in. I was somewhat awake and aware with Jimmy Carter, but didn't really.
You were past your toddler stage.
Yeah, I didn't have an opinion,
Yeah.
really, you know?
Yeah.
And then when Reagan came in, I got interested because he was so charismatic. And the jokes that he told, and, I just liked the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1980, I was 10 years old. And I decided that I was going to watch the inaugural address because this guy's pretty cool. So I start watching the inaugural address, and he would say something that the Democrats liked, and they would all stand up and applaud, and the other side's just sitting there. And then he'd say something the Republicans liked, and they'd stand up and applaud, and the other side just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we elected 5-year-olds to run our government? That was my opinion at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, why are these people acting like children younger than me?
Yeah.
And this is a 10-year-old having this opinion.
Wow. That's
very
astute 5-year-old having an opinion.
Yeah.
Or 10-year-old.
I was 10.
Yeah.
I was 10. I was appalled at the behavior of our government.
Yeah.
Appalled.
By
And
what
they
Reagan was saying, or
No,
was saying
by what the people in the audience in Congress that were listening to his inaugural address, the way they behaved.
the way they behave.
And they still do it today.
Oh yeah, like Nancy Pelosi ripping up Trump's speech in the inaugural address a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that, if they hear something that aligns with their party, they'll give a standing ovation. And the other side just sits there like, we're not going to clap for this. It's not our agenda.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They have no opinions of their own.
You're right. Well, I think you're right, and now I think they're starting to fractionize.
I hope so.
And I think a lot of that is because we
were never supposed to be a two-party system.
No, we were never supposed to be a two-party system. It was always supposed to be individual and not necessarily a party. But it always turned into parties because you would have a group of people that had a lot of funding, and they would fund certain individuals, and they would say they are part of this party, and that created the two-party system.
Well, the two-party system really didn't come in until after the Civil War.
Well, yes and no. I think there was a two-party system. It was more of Whig versus the Democrats, or what was listed as Democrats.
Well,
and then
Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president.
Right. And then you had Abraham Lincoln came in.
Right.
And he shook it up. Because the Whig Party was, they were the party of the 1700s.
Yeah. That was, George Washington was a Whig.
Yes. Yeah. And
they were the Masons.
Mm-hmm. And the Democratic Party was, there was a lot of stuff going on then. And Abraham Lincoln came in, and he was an abolitionist.
Right.
And
as the Republican Party was.
Yes.
The Democratic Party was the one that wanted slavery and wanted to continue the South the way the South was,
Yes.
which that's completely flipped now. I don't know.
It has flipped in a way.
I don't think neither party wants slavery.
Neither party wants slavery, but
the party of the working class.
Party of the working class has usually always been the Republican Party.
Right. But yet, the Democrats will say that they're the party of the working class.
Well, they say that because a lot of their political party members that they've put into office. Yeah. So they say one thing, but they do another thing.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. You look at Gavin Newsom, you look at all these different Democratic individuals. Mm-hmm. You even look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden, he was very much, I think he voted for Jim Crow, which is
that's how old this guy is.
Yeah, and we have a lot of politicians in office that are that old.
Yeah. Well, how long has Mitch McConnell been in office?
Well, he's been in office for ages.
30 years?
Yeah.
Like that?
I mean, that's a whole career.
Yeah. And Joe Biden originally entered his congressional career in the early 1970s.
Yes.
He should have retired.
He's been in office longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. That's disgusting.
It is very disgusting. But
Thomas Jefferson, I think it was Thomas Jefferson that believed, and he was very adamant that the representatives in our government should be people that left their careers for a temporary service in government and then would go back to their careers when their service was done.
Yes.
Politics is not supposed to be a career.
No, it's not supposed to be a career. It's supposed to be a service.
Yeah.
A service for that you see that you need change and you want to change it, and so you run on a particular ticket, and this all starts locally.
Right.
And then you get people to vote for you, and then you go and you change those things.
Right. And now people are talking about their political career.
There should never be a political career. But then again, people now change career paths quicker than they ever did before.
That's true.
People would spend 30, 40 years in one career. Now you have individuals who can't spend 10 years in one career.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the competition or the scarcity of good jobs.
Yeah.
Which we could talk about that too, is you look at a lot of the Democrats in more recent years, they exported a lot of our manufacturing overseas. Mm-hmm. And yet they get donations from the unions and all these other individuals. And I think the reason why they got money from the unions was because they went after these corporations to pay people more, which is not a bad thing, but the government shouldn't be weaponized to force a company to pay.
The idea of unions is good.
The idea of unions is good.
The implementation of unions, we've ended up with places like Detroit.
Yeah. Well, you even look at the ports. So there was a port strike that was about to happen a couple of months ago, and was kind of squashed until the new year. Yeah. And a lot of the unions don't want automation.
Well, it's going to cost jobs.
It's going to cost jobs, right? But automation is the only way in the future with artificial intelligence and robotics and everything else.
It is the future.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And these companies, in order for them to be competitive, they have to implement them. Mm-hmm. Not only do they have, and the thing is, a lot of your port jobs, it's not necessarily just a corporation here that they're competing with. They're also competing with corporations overseas. You look at China, a majority of their shipping is all automated. And they don't have some of the jobs that are labor intensive that we have here.
Speaking of China, they own, was it 200,000 farming acres?
Yes.
The Chinese government
Yes.
owns U.S. farmland.
Yes.
Why?
I honestly think it's a fight for commodities. So a lot of the farmlands that they own a lot of your pork in the U.S. They own a lot of the pig farms in the U.S.
Okay.
And
So they took over Hormel and Tyson?
yes,
Oh.
yeah, they have a lot of chicken and pork farms.
Okay.
And that's very scary. Having a foreign entity owning our food resource.
Yeah.
Not only that, they produce our drug resources in China. Some of it comes from Canada. And
Because the U.S. doesn't really have a manufacturing sector.
yeah, we don't have a manufacturing sector. And
we need to. We need to get back to being somewhat self-efficient.
yeah, we even had
Self-sufficient.
a glass factory here in the U.S. It was bought by a Chinese corporation.
Dow Corning.
Yes, and they actually imported a lot of Chinese workers for the contract
Really?
and subsidized a lot of American jobs for that here in the U.S. And our government is behind a lot of that.
Yeah,
Because they have to allow this.
Well, they've actually given incentives.
Incentives. Yes. And, you know, that's a direct attack on we the people. And you kind of see a theme with me with we the people and the government.
Yeah.
Because I honestly don't think the government has the people's interest in heart, even though we vote them into office.
Well, I agree. Part of that is the fact that there are people in a government that we did not vote in that have too much control.
EPA, FDA, all these different organizations.
Even in the presidential cabinet, you've got the cabinet members that have been appointed,
Mhm.
but then you've got people underneath them that are saying, "I'm not going to do it that way."
Right. And you even have Biden, who a lot of individuals say that he's incoherent, that are actually running the country that shouldn't even have these powers to make these decisions, and they're making these decisions.
I honestly believe that Biden has been nothing but a puppet for the last 2.5 years. I don't think he's made a
I
single
wouldn't
decision.
doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. And they're spending all this money and all these resources to do different things.
Yeah.
And
Obama was a puppet.
mhm.
He didn't make any decisions.
and that's where I believe they're paying for a lot of illegal immigrants to come into the U.S. because they're wanting to subjugate all the American people. How do you do that? You bankrupt them.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring in a lot of illegals. You spend a ton of money to where it causes a ton of inflation. You make homes unaffordable for individuals. You make food costs more expensive. Now all of a sudden people are willing to do anything to survive.
I think the only presidents I can think of in my lifetime that weren't puppets for somebody would be probably Reagan and Trump. And
Well,
Reagan was kind of controlled to a point too, but I mean the Bushes were Halliburton.
the Bushes were Halliburton. Well, I think George Jr. or Bush Jr.
Yeah.
He was never really in any power, I believe. I think a lot of it was
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
And
Dick Cheney was Halliburton.
He was Halliburton.
Yeah.
Yeah, George W. was, or George Jr., I call him Jr. because he's the son of George Bush.
Appropriate.
Yeah. He was just wanting to get in office and get the name and have his family be,
He was a joke.
he was a joke.
But it wasn't funny what he did with the U.S. military, that's for sure. Because, I mean, honestly, why haven't people like Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and even Mitch McConnell, for that matter, been charged and convicted with the stuff that happened, the weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist?
Well, it's because of, I honestly believe it's a lot of your,
I mean, we fought a war that didn't need to happen.
right, but I think that was Raytheon
It was.
and Yeah, it was
corporate
going.
interests.
It was all these corporate interests, and that goes back to.
And I said, Bush was a puppet.
Mhm. And that's the thing is a lot of our military leaders are not really. They're put into positions by presidents.
Yeah.
Everything's appointed by a president. That's why they're executors.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are going after Trump like, oh, he's going to cut all these jobs and he's going to put all these people in place. Every president has done that from the beginning of our presidency.
Absolutely.
And that's what they should be doing.
And you've got people on the left saying, he's was part of an insurrection, therefore he can't go into office. Prove it.
Well, there's
It's already been proven that he wasn't.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, Nancy Pelosi is probably more guilty of being the insurrectionist than Donald Trump.
Well, and there's also a big push for a lot of people, even going on record, of creating a shadow cabinet.
That's insurrection. They're openly doing it.
Well,
So you've got the left that are saying, he's doing this. Okay, you point one finger out, you got four fingers pointing back at you.
yes. And with the shadow cabinet, they're justifying it because British Parliament's always done that, and all these other organizations or countries have done that. Well, we're not those countries.
No,
We're the American people.
Yeah.
We have never wanted a shadow cabinet. I don't want a cabinet in place that is going against the individual that I put in office.
Exactly. A non-elected cabinet that is going to be in direct contradiction to what the American people has voted for.
Exactly. And that goes to show you what's wrong with our country. And not only that,
they're not representing the people.
no. And the shadow cabinet, what it is, they're going to be this group of individuals who people are going to go, oh, I need to make these decisions, so we need you to do this and do that. That's who they're going to be going to. And they're going to be listening to the shadow government versus our own government that we elected. The Kash Patels, the Vivek Ramaswamis.
Well,
these individuals who I like because...
Ramaswamy was not elected.
Well, he's not elected, but he's going to be put in a lot of these offices or in these positions where he's going to be looking into...
He's going to be looking into it and
advising.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is I want these guys to go in there with a wrecking ball and taking out all these individuals who are not looking out for the American people. They're looking out for themselves and their own form of government, which is tyranny.
Right.
Sorry, I'm kind of very passionate.
Well, I honestly think that the December budget issue with Congress and the possible government shutdown was the way that Trump handled it and his team handled it was phenomenal.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, he's not even in office yet, and he basically said, "No, don't do that."
Right, and the thing is, the far left is freaking out. You have the director of the FBI stepping down.
Right.
Why is he stepping down? He's got things that he's not accounting for. He knows he's either done wrong or covered up.
Not only is he stepping down, but he also requested immunity.
That goes to show, like what I was just saying, he's doing something that he did or covered up for.
Well, he knows that he has weaponized the Bureau.
Yeah.
In going after political opponents.
Like I was saying, they're going after, and they're using a lot of the agencies like the ATF to go after individuals who have guns, who just have a lot of guns and like the Constitution, and they're going after this individual because he's got,
A Gaston flag.
or better yet, he's got a social following, and he's posting a lot of stuff on social networks that they don't like, and they're squashing it, and they're
like what was the name of the guy that just testified in front of Congress about the ATF? Daniel Herrera.
I believe so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of FBI agents or even consultants with the FBI that are testifying on a lot of stuff that's coming out.
Well, Herrera, I listened to. I didn't watch it. I listened to it, but I did listen to the hearing, and it was interesting because it was noted that when he said that he fully expects the ATF to go after him because he's testified, he was smiling.
Yeah. Well, and there's the
Because
movie.
he knows, and he's not wrong.
Yeah. There's a documentary I want to kind of promote. It's called Finish This Fight. It's a vets movie. It's from veterans. It's a documentary. And I believe that I saw some of the individuals helped produce this movie on a Culture War podcast that was on Tim Pool.
Okay.
And one of the individuals that was on it was an FBI consultant.
Okay.
And he was not attacked, but he has stories of things that have happened to him, like poisonings and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our Department of Justice.
Yeah, and I mean, to give an example of just how corrupt our government is, Edward Snowden is a patriot. And he should have been protected as a whistleblower.
Yes.
But yet, now he's facing treason charges and can't come back to the country.
Yes. And
that's corruption.
That's corruption. And people know our government's corrupt. And a lot of people are trying, like you and I, are trying to vote our way out of this, trying to do everything through legal means, through our First Amendment right, posting these videos, to try to wake people up. Not woke people up, wake people up.
Don't be woke, be awake, like Blackout Coffee.
Yeah, that's we talk a lot about products in our first videos. We haven't been doing that lately, but it's also the holidays. We've been we took a break for a while.
We were actually drinking Blackout Coffee in the last week.
We didn't drink it.
I don't think we had it on the table. We were drinking it.
We were drinking it. But yeah, there's a lot of, try to support your local companies and also try to support companies that believe the same way you do.
Yeah. Loggerhead has a key lime gin.
Yes.
That's actually, I tried it. It's phenomenal.
I heard it's won a lot of awards.
Yeah.
I might get that one.
So
days.
give yourself a key lime gin and tonic.
There you go.
Total Wine.
Yeah.
You can get it right here at Millennium Mall.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to talk about with this segment?
Not that I can think of. I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, we talked about the inaugural address. We talked about the shadow cabinet.
You were originally talking about your first getting into politics with Bush, and
Yeah. No,
did you talk about all the subjects there you wanted
pretty
to talk
much,
about?
yeah. I mean, I just wanted to point out that I was, as a 10-year-old, disgusted at the behavior of our politicians.
Yeah.
And still am.
Yeah. I got into politics at a very young age. I was about 5 or 6 when Bush was running for, not Bush, Reagan was running for his second term.
Okay.
My dad followed Reagan, and he was for Reagan. My dad, he saw what was going on from Ford to Carter, and he did not like what was going on with Carter. Carter actually is responsible for a lot of our manufacturing going over to China.
Jimmy Carter was domestically a train wreck.
Yes.
His foreign policy was good, but domestically he was a train wreck.
Yes. And a lot of people are saying, oh, we shouldn't be isolationists. Well, when people are almost starving, can't afford a home to create a family, and we're looking at population decline, and our politicians are talking about bringing in illegal immigrants to subjugate population, we need to become isolationists. Because there's a problem at home, we need to isolate, fix the problem.
The reason that the birth rate is down is not because people don't want kids, it's because people can't afford kids.
Well, now, and the thing is like, so the progress of family, we could talk about that in another episode.
Family values.
Family values. We'll talk about that on our next episode. Is there anything else you want? Well, let me just talk a little bit about politician, or my view on politics, how I got into politics. And so I followed Bush Sr. I liked a lot of things he did. I felt the way he handled the Gulf War was good, because we didn't have a whole lot of casualties. We kicked ass, and we kicked Iraq out of Kuwait, and we didn't go into Iraq. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were wanting to go into Iraq, but we didn't, which I think was a great idea, great strategy.
I think the Desert Storm was done very well.
Yes. And then you go to Bill Clinton, and I didn't realize what Bill Clinton was doing in office until he became a homeowner. And that's when I became awoke with Bill Clinton. And then so I voted for Bush Jr., and then I didn't know what the hell was his thinking, and finding out that it was all freaking, he was a puppet, and he created a puppet program that I think our government's now working in.
At least he wasn't Jeb.
Yeah, he wasn't Jeb. But then we went into Obama. Obama continued to do things, and I knew he would. He talked about it with making health care for all that everybody had to pay into, which has really raised healthcare costs. If you don't believe me, look at it.
And it has made health insurance worthless.
Yes. Just like all your countries that have socialized medicine. Same way. And then we went into Trump, and I voted for, actually, I was planning on voting for Trump, but I actually liked the independent, Gary Johnson, that was for the Libertarian Party. And at that time, I believed in a lot of the Libertarian Party. I still kind of do, but they've gone woke, not awoke, but woke.
They went a little off the rails.
They went way off the rails.
I was a big Ross Perot supporter.
I like Ross Perot too. I supported him.
I was really upset when he withdrew under questionable circumstances.
Yes. Ron Paul. I'm a huge Ron Paul fan. I wish he would have ran.
He's a little bit out there too.
He is, but man, I think he would have done a great job. But then when Trump got into office, I was like thinking, oh my God, this is hilarious.
When Trump was first elected in 2016, I really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, it's good that we have someone in there that's not a politician, number one. I'm all for that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were like, but he's not a politician, he can't do it. I'm like, you know what, this is not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing. And a lot of the things, he just couldn't keep his mouth shut on Twitter.
He could.
There were a lot of things in his first term that were just cringe.
Mm-hmm. But
at the same time, looking back on it, he did a lot of really good things.
He did, I think he did an amazing job for non-politician. Yeah. And the thing is,
and he had a hand tied behind his back the first 2 years.
Oh yeah, because he kept a lot of people in a lot of positions that were in there from Obama.
Yeah.
And he was expecting them to treat him like the president, commander in chief.
They did.
When they didn't. No. He even gave them orders, and they refused those orders.
Yep. Which is why he's doing things the way he is this time.
Yes. And
he's not playing games.
No, and if he does anything like he did the last term, this is going to be a great presidency. It'll be great for the American people, and and the thing is, it's going to hurt. A lot of people don't realize it's going to hurt, and the reason why it's going to hurt is because all the shit that they've been doing for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm.
He even talked about banning getting rid of the IRS. Castrating the ATF. What else? The EPA, the FDA, the Department of Education.
Yes. And I hope he pulls us out of dealing with Russia and Ukraine and the whole Middle East.
one thing that I actually agree with him on is, why do we feel like Russia is our enemy?
Russia's not our enemy, they're Ukraine's enemy. And the current administration, not Trump's administration, Biden's administration,
Right.
and the administrations before were really good friends with Ukraine politicians now.
Well, Hunter Biden was severely invested in Ukraine.
Yes, not only Hunter Biden, there's a lot of other politicians.
And also Halliburton. Halliburton had a lot of
Yes.
influence in Ukraine. The United States was manufacturing chemical weapons in Ukraine
Yes.
before the war.
Raytheon. Here we go back to the
Yeah.
whole, it's the corporations and not the people that they're looking out for.
Yes.
And that's why we're supporting Ukraine, and that's why we're doing all this in Ukraine. That's why we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine.
Right.
And how's this helping you, the American people?
It's not. It's not. And, I mean, okay, so you have to understand the history of Ukraine. I mean, they've been Russia, they've been on their own, they've been Russia again, and now they're on their own again.
Right.
You know?
And you also got to look at Russia, and like we were saying in previous episodes, it's us expanding NATO,
Yeah.
which NATO, their whole purpose has always been to fight Russia from their organization.
Well, I mean, just go back, to, I don't remember what year it was, but when the Georgia thing happened, the whole reason that Russia basically smacked Georgia down was because they were talking about joining NATO.
Yes. And that's why I think he was afraid of Ukraine. Because you think about it, we're spending all this money in Ukraine. We have all these politicians going to Ukraine. You have the president's son working in Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were going NATO.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia's like, enough.
Well, yeah, because it's like I said last time we talked about this. If Russia was in Mexico and had basically complete control of everything that happened in Mexico, we would have issue with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I have an issue with China being in our country as much as they are.
Oh, so do I. What's going on with Canada? I hear talk about things.
Well, that I think we should make into another episode.
Okay. I haven't looked into that one. I've heard chatter that something really weird's going on in Canada.
Oh, there's a lot of weird stuff. Those crazy Canucks.
Yeah.
It's not a war crime if it's the first time.
Oh, okay.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. We've talked for a pretty long time in this segment.
Yeah.
Is there? I don't have anything else to say except for like, share, subscribe, and comment.
Please.
That's how we're going to grow this page and these videos and get it out there.
If it doesn't grow, we still enjoy doing it. So.
Well, I'm going to continue doing it because it's my only way I can fight against the government. Through my speech, damn it!
Hey, this is America.
This is America.
We're allowed to.
We're allowed to. It's not like the UK.
That's another topic.
That's another topic. So like, share, subscribe, comment. On to the next.